possible interpretation, claim to have had close encounters of the fifth kind.
This is a new chapter in interspecies communication.
Then, don't make any plans for the new year until you've watched our full astrological report with startling predictions for 1993.
It's the worst period that I've seen in a long time.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. The start of every new year means resolutions that we're determined to keep, and probably don't. And of course, a chance for psychics and astrologers to make their predictions for the coming year. How accurate are these prophecies? And should we believe these predictions about the future? Well, perhaps this year we should pay special attention. Many professional psychics are predicting a 1993 filled with disaster.
We believe that at 7:05 in the evening on the 8th of May 1993 there will be one of the largest earthquakes ever to hit California, that it will spread during an 11-minute period when the quake will actually continue all the way up the coast on the Andreas Fault, and that it will start a major disaster on the American continent.
A frightening prediction, and one made even more astounding when we consider the source. A 16th century physician, astrologer, and to some a visionary, by the name of Michel Nostradamus. According to some scholars, Nostradamus' predictions about major historical events have proven to be amazingly accurate, even 400 years after his death.
Nostradamus was the most extraordinary man of his century. He was known in many circles, known as medical circles, court circles. Many ambassadors used to write terrified letters back to their various kings and queens saying, Monsieur Nostradamus has said so-and-so. We must be careful.
For centuries, people have tried to decode his cryptic writings. He has been credited with predicting the coming of Hitler, air travel, great natural disasters, and plagues.
There have been many interpreters of Nostradamus, but Nostradamus wrote in very obscure quatrains. First of all, it's hard to interpret it. We find out that you can read anything in it you want to.
A new and intriguing interpretation of the quatrains of Nostradamus is being offered by author Peter Lorre.
What we did in our book was actually to discover a code, a numerical and a grammatical code, which actually is tricky to begin with, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite simple, which decodes the quatrains and makes them much more fascinating than they are, in fact, on the face of it.
Nostradamus often used astrology as what he believed was a scientific backup to his predictions. Astrology is based on the belief that the relative positions of stars and planets have a direct effect on all life on Earth. But can the future really be predicted with any accuracy? Many people do believe that psychics, palm readers, and especially astrologers have a special ability to see into the future. And there are those who turn to countless books and magazines that offer advice and predictions for the coming year.
Astrology is both an art and a science. It's a science in the sense that we use the actual positions of the planets. In fact, my computers here have the same planet position tapes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories in Pasadena. The art end of it comes from being able to interpret these planetary positions and what they mean for a person in their life, in their future, what's happening for them.
Computers are the latest weapon in a high-tech arsenal astrologers are using. The positions of the stars and planets for any period of time can be entered and then quickly compared to important information about a single individual, a group, or even a specific geographical region.
One of the tips that led me to the realization that there was a strong potential for a moderate to severe earthquake in California the end of June 1992 was the position of Jupiter, the most massive planet that there is, was sitting at the midnight point below the state of California at the time that the biggest earthquake in 40 years hit the Yucca Valley area.
In addition to charting the likelihood of catastrophic events and providing individual charts for their clients, some astrologers are also helping some businesses find their way to economic prosperity.
I do a portfolio called a company profile, and I take the incorporation date of the business and run it, of course, on the computer. And all of those charts give some insight into the business.
As a result of working with Grace, I saw a tremendous turnaround in the income and the volume of activity in my business.
Arch Crawford is Wall Street's best-known astrologer. His newsletter was calculated most accurate by Timer Digest for 1991 and 2.
I was looking for something, you know, in Wall Street just to give a slight edge. And what I found was startlingly more than an edge. The new incoming administration would do well to consult astrologers. The heads of most governments in the past always did consult astrologers. Some of the major heads today still do. Ronald Reagan was known as the Teflon president because whatever they threw at him, nothing stuck. And the reason nothing stuck was that he was doing everything on a favorable astrological time. The man knew what he was doing. I can tell you that Bush has not been using astrologers because he went to Japan and threw up on the prime minister on an eclipse date that was in bad aspect to the natal United States chart. That was the worst time to go out. That was a good time to stay home and be sick, maybe.
And what do the heavens tell prominent astrologers and astroeconomists about the events of the upcoming year?
Looking over what's going to happen in the year ahead, it looks to me like one of those years they're going to make T-shirts about. It's going to be, I Survived 1993. The major war potential now relates more to the holy war between the Islamic nations of the Middle East and the great powers in the West. It's going to be more a terrorist kind of situation, especially around approximately February 2 and also in August and early October of 1993. We're going to have another major seismic upheaval in the western U.S., probably California, probably around February the 8th, March the 6th, April the 6th. Those 3 dates are key dates, plus or minus 3 days.
I do have a prediction of a high late in April and a very devastating May-June period. It may be another crash. It's the worst period that I've seen in a long time. I don't know specifically how the planets affect Somalia in particular, but I think it's very strange that the United States goes in there on the day of the lunar eclipse, and I don't think that that's a good thing. On a full moon and a lunar eclipse is not a good time to start projects.
Nostradamus predicts an earthquake on the west shore, Los Angeles, California, which will be of such great dimensions that the seismic records will be heard not only in New York, but practically worldwide. He gives us May the 21st.
Is this our fate, or are these predictions merely random guesses based on an unproved science? And should we take them seriously? Can computers, or the words of a 16th century doctor, foretell our future?
We all, of course, want to know what's happening in the future. I think that's something we experienced as a child. If we could just predict the future, know what was going on. Nobody can do it. And the promise of it, I think, is so compelling and so strong that it takes an act of will and a lot of effort to overcome the natural inclination to want to believe that, too.
For now, only time will tell if it is the astrologers or the skeptics who will be right in the future. Joining us now with more predictions of what lies ahead in 1993 is Gene Avery, world-famous astrologer, lecturer, and author of numerous books on astrology. Gene, welcome to Sightings.
Hi, Tim. Thank you.
Many of the astrologers that we've spoken to, Gene, say 1993 is going to be a simply awful year. Do you agree?
Well, it's not going to be an easy one, let's put it that way.
Why?
There's an aspect in the skies between Uranus and Neptune that is so extraordinary it has not been around for 165 years. The planet Uranus always describes events that are almost catastrophic. I have to say that word.
Gene, people love lists. What are your top 3 predictions for 1993?
Do I have to confine them to 3?
Sure.
I see the stock market starting to get into trouble February, March. I see May bringing earth changes, perhaps in Seattle area. I see catastrophic events with the stock market at that time, and some terrible rumblings in the Middle Eastern countries again.
Other astrologers have predicted a major earthquake in California. Another one in 1993. May the 8th, some of them say. How about you?
Well, I see earth changes up around Seattle and Utah and in Portland. I don't see it in Lower California.
Earthquakes north of California?
Earth changes.
What does that mean?
Floods, hurricanes, disastrous weather conditions, but not necessarily the earthquake in California.
What does President Clinton have ahead of him, according to the stars?
Well, he has a fabulous time ahead. He's going to be a wonderful president. I feel even inspired. He has 4 years ahead with very few difficult aspects. So I think he's going to be a fabulous leader.
Jean Avery, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And we will be back with more sightings in just a moment.
Coming up next, these people claim to have had close encounters of the fifth kind with extraterrestrials.
This is a new chapter in interspecies communication.
Sightings is brought to you by Suave Hair Care, when you know beautiful hair doesn't have to cost a fortune.
Come on, perk up, perk up. I'm talking about my hair is possessed. What's wrong? It goes every which way. I mean, how come your hair always goes the right way? Suave hairspray. No, the Suave? Oh, great. So I'm running around buying the most expensive brands of hairspray. Well, you just have to get with it. Suave's all you use? Really? That's it. Oh, those are the best ones yet. Except for this hair.
Suave, when you know beautiful hair doesn't have to cost a fortune.
I hate to be a pesto, but did you know some grated toppings are 1/3 fats and fillers? Kraft is 100% grated Parmesan for 100% great taste. Great-o.
We dare you to feel more comfortable this month.
You're on.
Take new improved Playtex out of its applicator and compare it to the other leading tampon.
Playtex is softer and a more comfortable applicator. I'll try it.
Playtex, dare to feel more comfortable.
Saturday, you'll see exclusive surveillance footage of a suspect who was too hard to handle on an all-new Cops in Fort Worth. Then, witness extraordinary rescues by ordinary people. When a plane's landing gear fails, the pilot's friend attempts a daring mid-air rescue. And they're the unsung heroes of the San Francisco earthquake. See how brave citizens risked their lives to save complete strangers on an all-new Code 3 After Cops Saturday.
Until recently, sightings of UFOs have been divided into 3 categories. A close encounter of the first kind, or CE-1 for short, describes sightings closer than 500 feet. A CE-2 includes physical evidence left behind. And the third kind, or CE-3, describes face-to-face encounters. A few years ago, ufologists added CE-4 to describe reported alien abductions of humans. And now there's a new category, close encounters of the fifth kind, CE-5, in which humans and aliens actively communicate with each other through light and sound. The Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Life, or CSETI, is pioneering the study of CE-5s. Dr. Stephen Greer is CSETI's director.
A close encounter of the fifth kind is a term that we have coined to describe humans deliberately attempting to vector a spacecraft into an area with the intention of interacting with it.
Most encounters in all the other categories are passive. In a CE-5, we take the initiative to communicate in some fashion, whether it be with sound or light or thought, to try and get a response. Rather than just being passive observers, we want to interact.
And some of these are sometimes quite serendipitous. For example, an individual might be out at night driving along a highway and see an extraterrestrial spacecraft or a UFO, and will take the initiative to get a flashlight and begin to signal to it. And many times it will come over and then signal back.
The purpose of our work is for peaceful communication, mutual respect. We absolutely assume non-hostility on the part of any visitors until it's proven to us beyond a shadow of a doubt.
In their field research, CSETI has developed a specific set of protocols for initiating contact with alien spacecraft. Their goal is a successful CE-5.
The different methods of initiating a CE-5 include using sound, which are, at this point, we're using anomalous sounds that were recorded inside of crop circles in England. We use light. When we go out into the field, we go with 500,000 candle power halogen lights that are portable.
The lights are used for signaling to the UFO either in a series of flashes or by drawing shapes in the sky, usually a large triangle or large circle. It's meant to encourage the UFO to participate and to interact with the project.
We also use thought in the form of meditative thought or thought projection. We call it coherent thought sequencing.
So we are using these, what we call the contact trilogy, in a protocol fashion with the express intention of a boarding party, a CSETI trained boarding party, going on board and having a meeting with these visitors.
In the spring of 1992, Dr. Greer took a CSETI group to one UFO hotspot, Gulf Breeze, Florida. This computer simulation is based on CSETI's own footage, supposedly showing communication with a UFO.
We began signaling to them with these lights, and they would signal back so that we would flash to them 2 flashes and off, and they would flash back 2 times and off. They disappeared briefly, and during that time period, we were making an equilateral triangle in the sky with these high-powered lights. At that point, shortly after we did that, they reappeared in a perfect equilateral triangle. Over 40 people witnessed a definite close encounter of the 5th kind between the CSETI group and these UFOs.
With their apparent success at Gulf Breeze, CSETI expanded their field research to include an investigation in Great Britain. They combined forces with British researchers who were interested in investigating if alien spacecraft could be responsible for England's famous crop circles.
We wanted to try and prove once and for all if a link really did exist between the UFO phenomenon and the crop circle phenomenon.
We picked the Wiltshire area because the majority of the crop circle formations in England are forming in that particular county.
The site there is very close to Stonehenge. It's a very prolific area for aerial phenomena and for the ground patterns.
During our protocol that evening of July 23rd, we focused on our thought process for this particular formation for 20 minutes. We all held in our minds the thought of a triangle with a circle at each point of the triangle.
And we were, of course, very astonished to find that the next day, precisely that shape appeared in a field.
We walked out onto the end of this long land formation, and as we got to the very end, there glistening in the sun below us was the perfect formation, identical to what we had envisioned.
We clearly do have an intelligence involved, which would appear to be reading the brain patterns of the human psyche.
It seems very evident to us that this is all about communication. They, whoever they are communicating to us with these ciphers in the field. And in our CSETI protocol, we've communicated with them, and they've answered back.
When we saw the existence of this formation, we considered that to be a very high-level CE-5.
Exhilarated by their success, the CSETI team mounted another investigation nearby at Alton Barnes. Bad weather forced most of the team to abandon the overnight surveillance. But Dr. Greer and 3 others persevered.
At approximately 12:20 a.m., Chris Mansell was banging on my window, and I opened the door and I said, "What is wrong?" And he said, "There is a spaceship coming right through the bloody field."
It must have been 80 to 100 feet across, very large.
And at this point, we were able to extricate one of these high-powered lights, and we began to signal to it. So I took the light and I hit it twice with this very high-powered light, 2 flashes, and paused.
To my ultimate surprise, it actually flashed back. And he did it again, and it flashed back again. It's just amazing, uncanny, really.
This event certainly ranks as one of the most significant human-initiated encounters in history, and I think it speaks to the possibilities which await us in the future.
One such possibility is accurately predicting when and where a CE-5 will occur. Roy Dutton is a British aerospace engineer who has amassed records on thousands of reported UFO sightings. Given a specific location, Dutton believes he can predict the date and time of the area's next sighting.
I can very, very quickly produce a predictions graph for any place on Earth.
Roy Dutton did predict the events that occurred at Halton Barnes.
I had just met him that day, the day of the 26th, and he had, for that part of England, had stated that there would be high likelihood of sightings at around 10:30, which is when we did have the first sightings, and then again at 12:30. The sightings which occurred that night were congruent with his predictions.
We, in our CSETI work, have communicated to them, and they've answered, well, what are the boundaries of this? This is a new chapter in interspecies communication.
CSETI members believe that the increasing number of UFO sightings reported over the past 40 years are more than coincidence. They believe the growing number of sightings are part of an extraterrestrial master plan to prepare us, they say, for formal contact in the near future.
Coming up, a landmark that's become the site of an investigation after a psychic channeling.
Robert the Pirate spoke through me, and he spoke about underground tunnels and buried treasure.
Some women have a new secret. The new Playtex Secrets Panty Slimmer. Of course it's pretty, but the real secret? A hidden panel that targets your tummy to control you where you need it most. The secret's out. New Playtex Secrets Panty Slimmer and matching bras. Shh, it really works.
Dear Big Cheese, my dream is to eat a Little Caesar's Big Cheese with you.
Kid, I'm George Barnes.
Oh.
Let's eat.
Okay.
It's the biggest pizza in the history of the world. 24 slices of cheese and pepperoni pizza, all for $8.88.
Pizza, pizza.
You see this waiting room? A lot of those are sinus problems, not just colds. But this is tough on both. Advil Cold and Sinus. Sinus?
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Advil Cold and Sinus, advanced formula for the cold and sinus season.
What could be worse than a yeast infection?
How about the cost of curing it? Does anything cost less?
FemCare costs less than Monostat 7, and it's just as effective.
It's a real alternative.
Trust FemCare, the cure that costs less.
In a bizarre premonition, this mother wrote a detailed account of her daughter's murder months before it happened. On another episode of Sightings, coming up next.
There are hills and mountains between us, always something to get over. If I had my way, surely you would be closer.
New customers, new markets. They're out there, but reaching them can be a big problem for small business. Nobody has more ways to help you open new markets than South Central Bell. We make it easier to reach new customers.
Just get here if you can.
Up and down the eastern seaboard, local folklore is filled with stories and legends about the pirates who once ruled the Atlantic coast. Their exploits on the high seas are intriguing, but still more tantalizing are the stories of buried treasure the pirates left behind. Now historians, archaeologists, and a psychic are teaming up to find one treasure trove that they all believe may lie buried in New Jersey. One of the most notorious pirates in North America was Captain Charles Morgan, who ruled the waters off the coast of New Jersey in the mid-1600s. Many believe that he lived here at an historic site now known as Spy House, so named because of the British spies who were imprisoned here during the American Revolution. 3 years ago, local psychic Jane Doherty visited Spy House to investigate eyewitness reports of paranormal activity.
As I came through the house, I picked up various information, went into a trance, and Robert the Pirate spoke through me. At first, we didn't know his name. He just came out of me, and he spoke about underground tunnels and buried treasure. When I came out of the trance, we were all very shocked by it.
Even more shocking was confirmation by geophysicist Bruce Bevan that tunnels did indeed exist beneath Spy House.
I detected 3 lines of echoes out on the other yard of the house. These are caused by objects which are underground, and we might say follow their path for a length of maybe about 20 to 30 feet or so.
The possibility of tunnels under Spy House does not surprise local historians.
When pirates came into shore, what they would do is they would go to the center of the harbor, and then it was believed that they would use the tunnels to bring in goods and to bring in slaves. So there's a very good chance that some of these tunnels are still in existence.
In the spring of 1993, scientists from Rutgers University will begin an investigation to determine if there are tunnels beneath Spy House. Sightings will bring you the outcome of the Rutgers investigation.
If you've had a paranormal experience, our investigative team would like to know. At 1-900-740-SIGHT. Each call 75 cents a minute. Average call lasts 2 minutes, and you must be 18 years or older. Again, the Sightings hotline is 1-900-740-7483.
When I get a yeast infection, I want an effective cure at a reasonable price. So I switched from Gynolotrimine to Mycelex 7, because Mycelex has the same full prescription strength medicine, and it costs a lot less. So now my choice, my cure, is Mycelex.
The no-nonsense American woman. The no-nonsense Wall Street whiz, Elaine Garzarelli. International pilot, Kathy Lasauce. The no-nonsense neurosurgeon, Dr. Karen Fagan. Now the best no-nonsense ever, with the confidence of triple run guards that stop panty runs where they start. The no-nonsense actress, Celia Ward. People in pantyhose that get better all the time.
No-nonsense American woman.
This is the plan for the B-2 bomber. This is the structure of DNA. This is a long-distance calling plan. What do they all have in common? You can't understand any one of them. Fortunately, Sprint can decipher long distance for you. With priority service, they'll review your account and let you know if you're on the right plan. It's that easy. And this is how you call Sprint.
Remember waking up to the hiss of Mom's pancakes hitting the griddle and looking forward to drowning them in rich mapley log cabin syrup? Log cabin, rich maple flavor, and mornings to remember.
Listen up, team! You want to keep your sandwiches fresh? Use Ziploc brand sandwich bags with the Gripper Zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in. Let's win one for the Gripper! There's only one Ziploc.
You said you wanted a change in this country. The new meatloaf sandwich at Burger King. I love this place. Flame broiled meatloaf topped with ketchup and raw onions on a sesame seed bun.
It's delicious.
I love this place.
Join us next time for new investigations into the unexplained. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
Stay tuned for more sightings. Tomorrow, Texas police are called in when a suspected shoplifter turns violent. See exclusive surveillance video on an all-new Cops in Fort Worth. Then, when a pilot's landing gear fails, his only hope for survival is a daring mid-air rescue on an all-new Code 3 tomorrow after Cops. Are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make